The main reason why I wanted to do this interview was because I have been following you for a while now, and I've watched pretty much every post that you put up, videos. I've looked at all your inspirational messages as a life coach, and in following you, this topic about men in prison is what really put me to a point where I was like, I want to do an interview with him. So as we began to get ready to get into this topic, I wanted to just ask you briefly, what sparked your interest to actually do a video about the topic of men in prison?
I mean, what sparked me to want to do the video was the fact that I just was released from federal prison 2019, July 17th of 2019, and I still am in touch with several men that's still sitting in federal prison, some with life sentences, some waiting to come home, some about to come home. And so I'm still very in touch with a lot of men that's still in federal prison doing time. And with the coronavirus situation, I thought it was incumbent upon me to speak about the subject matter, being, I could still be there. And I would hope somebody, speak up or think about me in that situation and being in that situation. So being that I have a platform, a growing platform, I decided to use it for that cause.
How old were you when you entered into the prison system?
I was 23, transitioning to 24 years old. Like, I think even though I was 23 or 20, going into 24 years of age, I think that was just a number. Mentally, I probably was, age-wise, mentally, I probably was 16, 17. So, I don't think when you turn 23 or 24, your mind automatically computes that it's 23, 24, and that you automatically had this great growth suddenly when you turn 23 or 24. I think, growth comes with time, and still in that early stage of life, you still just come right out your teens, so you still thinking like a teenager to some extent, and that's pretty much what was with me, what was going on with me at the time, 23, 24. I was still thinking real young-minded.
Can you tell me what briefly led to your incarceration?
As they say nowadays, BMF and blowing money fast. I chose to get money fast instead of slow and steady, and so I chose to sell crack cocaine, become a nuisance to my community, sell drugs to my own people, and I paid a penalty for that. I got caught with I didn't actually get caught with anything, but I got charged with 2 counts of distribution of crack cocaine, or 5 grams or more of crack cocaine, and I was 1.5 kilograms of crack cocaine of ghost dope or relevant conduct was contributed to me, and I was given the leadership role and 851 enhancement and a career criminal enhancement. All these enhancements is what actually contributed to me getting the 30 years in federal prison, which I wound up doing 20 years.
Tell me 3 ways you've changed and grown during the time for your approximate 20-year sentence.
The 3 ways I done changed is educationally, spiritually, and morally. I mean, you have. I call it 6 ways you can go. You could break it down. You can either go the bitter, mad, angry route, or you can go the spiritual, morally, or educational route. It's easy for us to go the bitter, mad, angry route, and that's basically what is automatically programmed to turn to the bitter, mad, angry route, versus the spiritual, educational, moral, and morality or moral route. That is the hardest route to take, the spiritual and the educational and the moral route. Basically taking responsibility for yourself, taking accountability for yourself. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest route to take. So that's why majority of us take the bitter, mad, angry route. So we always can find other people to blame for our situation. We can always avoid looking at ourselves in the mirror. And so I chose the spiritual, educational, moral route.
Is there anything that you value about your time in federal prison? And if so, what? If not, why?
Yeah, I think I value the time. Doing the time was valuable. I mean, you come to realize that man don't have man in society don't have time to himself to really buckle down and get to know himself, or to really buckle down to educate himself, or to really buckle down to really learn his spiritual side and get to know his spiritual self. So the time within itself, just having time like that it was valuable. We always say you can't get back that type of time. Even right now, being on lockdown in society, the way they have us quarantined, being locked in your house being able to meditate and think over your life and think about the things that's going on in life and think about your family. You know, it's hard to get that type of time because you have so much going on. It's just so much going on within your mind and within your everyday um, life or living lifestyle. So for me, it was the time. I valued doing the time.
Okay, well, since you value that, now let's go ahead and change the conversation to present day. What is Life Coach CW's purpose today?
Um, that's a good question. Um, my purpose is one to continuously uplift the minds of the youth, continuously bring a conscious thought, a conscious seed, a conscious insight to the people as a whole. Um, I'm, my purpose is also to let the people know that, hey, I walked in the darkness for 20 years, and that wasn't an easy walk. And I was in the darkness, but in the darkness, you always have to find that beacon of light in the darkness. And once you find that beacon of light in the darkness, then you just chase it down. You just chase after it because you see it, you see that light, it's there, you see that glimmer of light. And so I am one that choose to be, that light now for others that's walking in the dark, so they can know, well, hey, Charles was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison, and he was in there for 20 years straight, and he went in when he was young. So it's always let people know that, hey, it's a beacon of light. I can point to an example. I can point to a person that has that light, or know about that darkness, and chase down that light. And so that I am one to give people motivation and hope and faith that, hey man, you can make it no matter your situation in life.
And I'm sure that you're definitely going to be very successful in that. You already inspired and encouraged me, and a lot of people that I know that follow you, they feel the same. So, in the process of helping to be that light, what have you been doing since you've been released from federal prison?
Um, Being released from federal prison, um, I immediately got out. You have to get a job, of course. I was released from federal prison. I was immediately released from federal prison by Donald Trump signing the um, First Step Act, which came off the back of President Obama passing the Fair Sentencing Act, which changed the crack cocaine law from 100 to 1, the harsh discriminatory crack cocaine law, as I should say, from 100 to 1 to 18 to 1. But they didn't make it retroactive for all the men who had crack cases up under 100 to 1 when Obama was in office. So they only made it for the men who were sentenced at that point and was being sentenced after that point to receive relief. And then Trump came and passed the First Step Act, which made the Fair Sentencing Act of 2010 retroactive, which put the men that had been in jail prior to that law being passed, the Fair Sentencing Act, which gave us relief. And so I was released immediately upon the passing of that bill. And so that's how I was able to get out of prison. And being that I was able to get out of prison, I still am under supervised release. I have anywhere from 6 to 8 years to do on supervised release. But you could get off in 18 months if you are, working and doing all the right things you're supposed to do, abiding by the law, staying out of trouble, not doing any drugs, things of that nature. So I got right out and I got me a job. I was fortunate enough to get a job at this company who entrusted in me, and they gave me basically I had a trial period to be on, and then they hired me on. So they hired me on, gave me a good wages and good benefits. So I've been working. I work every day. Um, I also been working on my brand, which is Life Coach CW. Also is up under the umbrella Can't Wait Entertainment, which consists of motivational speaking, motivational videos, um, motivational quotes every day, um, entertainment as far as conscious music, um, conscious people, and t-shirt brands of conscious thoughts, conscious upliftment, and so that's basically what I've been on at this moment, and that's it.
Okay, so now I want to talk about the meat of your video post about men in prison. With the current status of the COVID-19 pandemic, you believe that the inmates that are positive are not being cared for properly. Can you explain to me why you believe this is happening?
Um, it's not that it's why I believe it's happening. Is that I know that it's happening because if you research yourself or the people who's listening, they research themselves on YouTube. There's many videos that has came to light with men who was fortunate enough to either have a cell phone in prison, was able to document the things that's been going on in these federal institutions that the media will not expose because they can't expose. They're not allowed to expose the crisis that's going on in these federal prisons, or maybe in prisons all over. I'm not for sure, but I know in federal prison, I know many videos has come out and shed a light on the situation at hand. Furthermore, uh, I am in touch with many men who still in prison that calls me weekly and text me. Some text me daily and give me insights of the conditions and the health conditions that's going on within those prisons, within those confines. And also, I was in federal prison, so I know when certain type of illnesses or crises take place. The healthcare is not cannot withstand, or it's not adequate enough to take care of the men properly, especially in a large crisis like this. They barely could take care and look out for you, and just within an individual crisis, or an individual having their own crisis, but a big crisis such as this, I know is very straining on the healthcare system within the BOP.
I thought it was very interesting how you referred to the medical professionals in the prison facilities as public school nurses. Can you elaborate more on that for me?
The public school nurses, I refer to them as public school nurses because in public school, if you get scratched or you catch a cough or you throwing up or you having a tummy ache, and the child go to the public school nurse. The public school nurse, for one, call the parent and let them know the child is sick. Two, they just do a small diagnosis of, that you take your blood pressure, take your temperature, check your weight, make you cough a few times, and if they could able to prescribe you medicine, then they'll give you some Tylenol, give you some NyQuil, or they'll give you some small amount of medicine that they believe could help the situation or the prognosis, but they're not qualified enough to really determine what is wrong with you and what is really going on with you. So they just do a quick assessment and move you on in life, and that's what they do in federal prison. They just make these nurses that they have in there just make a quick assessment, and even most of the time tell you to go to commissary and buy some type of medicine, and then get back with them whenever, or sometimes they just tell you about some medicine, you don't even hear nothing else back from them, period. And then sometimes they make a diagnosis and they give you the medicine, and you go back and take the medicine, and it doesn't help. But by that time, your health has deteriorated so bad that whatever the problem is so serious now that now they got to scramble to get you to a doctor and get you some better help, some better medical aid. And by that time, you're in a situation where you're in a life or death situation. So that's why I refer to them as public school nurses, because they're not sufficient enough to handle such crisis and that's going on at this moment. And from my experience in federal prison, they don't really have empathy for the men who's in there. They just think a man is just lying and making up that they sick, or always trying to have a reason to come down to medical for some mundane reason. So they're not really taken seriously until a person is really, really, very, very sick and down and out. Then they want to take it serious.
I think it's really cool how you come out and you have decided on your brand. You've established your brand. You basically making sure you use the platform of social media to promote your message overall. To me, you seem to be pretty well-rounded and thoroughly educated. And I wanted to know, how did you make improvements within yourself when you were incarcerated? Because you stated in your video that there were no real educational systems available when you were in federal prison.
I mean, there isn't any. I guess let me clarify that statement to some extent. There are educational programs in the federal prison system. Let's just be clear on that. There is programs called ACE programs. They just the bare basic programs, adult continuing educational programs. That's all they are. They bare basic. They are. You have a typing class. You have an out of date computer programming class. Windows 2006 or 2000 to probably right now it's probably up to 2013 or 16 class they give you. They have truck driving. They have a truck driving class, CDL class, shall I say. They had a GED. They have Spanish class. These classes are all just low level classes. They taught by inmates who have either were certified in these positions in society, knew how to speak Spanish in society, and they just used the inmates to teach these classes. There's no real investment into these classes. They just bare basic classes. My position is that they don't have any career-based programs that prepare men to return back to society to be productive. Most of the classes that they present are cognitive thinking classes: how to better your thoughts, how to better your actions, and those are good as well. But if you just better my thoughts and seeking to better my actions, but yet not giving me anything, teaching me anything of career-based, carpentry, air conditioning, cooling, plumbing, electricity, auto mechanics, dental, CPR classes, health profession classes. These are career-based programs. These are things that men can return back to society and actually get a job instantly with having the knowledge of. And this is what they do not provide to men. Yet they receive budgets for these programs and do not use this money and spend this money on these budgets. What they do is just say, if you look on, like for instance, Oxford FCI prison website, it's going to say they have all these wonderful programs. But if you actually at that prison, these programs are not up and running. These programs is not spearheaded by no officer, by no teacher, by no one. And they just get the budget for these programs, but yet they don't use the money for these programs. They use this money for other things like social gathering, officer bonuses, and officer holiday events and things of that nature. The money is not used for what it's supposed to be used for. Furthermore, the bare basic programs they give you are bare basic. They're not programs that help you at all. As for me, I self-educated myself. I realized that after so many years in prison, what you're gonna do. After so many years, you have to do something. So yeah, I took a lot of cognitive thinking programs, all the cognitive thinking programs they had to offer in federal prison. I also, turn to God, turn spiritual. As I say, the chapel, the best place to really go is the chapel, because they're going to provide you with everything. And if all else fails, you can become to some extent a preacher or a great imam, because they're gonna provide you with all the literature and religious literature you could possibly want to need. And so I turned to the spiritual department, and I took all the cognitive